Hi, and welcome to Infiniverse. I'm Daryl, your guide to the universe. Today we will be covering two of Earth's major closest neighbors, the Moon and Venus. Let's go! The Moon, our planet's companion. The strange glow in the sky that people across millennia wondered what it was. But how did it form? Currently, the main theory is that when the Earth was just formed, a Mars-sized protoplanet named Theia smashed into the Earth. The impact destroyed Theia and parts of the Earth, and the debris was thrown into space, which created a ring around the Earth. The ring eventually coalesced into two or more moons, and eventually the two moons smashed into each other, forming our moon. However, this theory is actually relatively new and was only coined in the 1970s. Before that, there were several other theories. There was the fission theory, where the moon was actually a part of the Earth, but as the young Earth rotated so fast, the moon just flew out of it with the Pacific Basin as a mark. However, this theory doesn't work, as we now know that the Pacific Basin or the Pacific Ocean was created by plate tectonics. Another theory is that the moon was a captured planet, but that theory also doesn't stand, as the moon has a high amount of oxygen isotopes, like on Earth. So that means the moon couldn't have been a captured body. And there's also the theory that the moon is an alien spaceship that was transporting humans to Earth and is now parked there, with its mysteries unsolved. Or not, that's probably fake. The moon has a tail, and by tail, don't imagine an animal tail coming out the back of the moon like a cat tail coming out the dark side of the moon. That's just ridiculous. The tail really is just a trail of sodium atoms, and it was only discovered during the LEONID meteor shower in 1998. The tail is blowing at the Earth due to solar radiation pressure, and it takes 2 days for it to reach Earth. The moon naturally ejects sodium atoms into space due to the sun's energy and charged particles, or by asteroid impacts. As much as you would like to see the tail, you can't, as the tail is very faint, and that is why it was only discovered 2 decades ago. An eclipse. What a wondrous and rare occasion. A magnificent sight to see. In fact, an eclipse just happened in North America just as I'm writing this fact. But what you may not know is that an eclipse is actually a big cosmic coincidence. An eclipse is an obscurance of light that happens when a celestial body passes in front of another, like the moon passes in front of the Earth, blocking the light from the sun. Eclipses are not a rare sight only bound to Earth. In fact, all planets with moons have eclipses. However, none of them are as perfect as Earth's. This is because the moon is 400 times closer to the Earth than the sun, but the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, and so the two bodies appear to be the same size, causing a perfect eclipse. Eventually, when the moon drifts away, the eclipse becomes less perfect until it looks nothing like what it looks like now. Which brings me to, when the moon was just formed billions of years ago, it was only 22,500 kilometers away from the Earth, compared with the now 402,000 kilometers. Every year, the moon drifts away at 3.78 centimeters. So how did the moon drift away? The reason is the Earth's oceans, or more specifically, the tides. The moon exerts a gravitational force on the Earth, creating a tidal bulge which causes the tides. The bulge is actually ahead of the moon, feeding a small amount of energy into the moon, pushing it into a higher orbit. So when would the moon leave the Earth? Actually, it never will. You see, in 50 billion years, the moon will settle into a 47-day orbit around the Earth compared to our current 27 days. However, by then, the Earth and the moon would both be destroyed, as the sun would have consumed both of them in 5 billion years as it expands into a red giant. We've all heard of earthquakes, but what about moonquakes? Moonquakes are, as the name says, earthquakes on the moon. However, the causes of it is different than that of Earth's. During the Apollo program, astronauts left seismographs on the moon to detect quakes. The seismograph found that there were 4 types of moonquakes. The first were tidal moonquakes, about 700 kilometers below the surface, caused by the Earth's tidal force on the moon. The second type were ones caused by asteroid impacts, and the third one were caused by the expansion of the moon's crust as it warms up after 2 weeks in the lunar night. However, the last one, shallow but quite powerful quakes, are a mystery. Nobody knows what causes it, but theories suggest it was caused by collapsing crater rims. These quakes are around 5.5 on the Richter scale and last for a long time as the moon is rigid and dry and becomes like a tuning fork during those shallow moonquakes. Venus is the closest planet to Earth. And yes, it is Venus, not Mars. And it is called Earth's evil twin. It is a twin in some ways because it is around the same size as the Earth and composed of the same materials. However, the evil part is because Venus is literally hell. It rains sulfuric acid there with a thick and crushing carbon dioxide atmosphere and an average temperature of 462 degrees Celsius on the surface. It is so hot and pressurizing that it can melt metal there. However, 2 billion years ago, this hellscape could have supported life. Computer modeling has shown that Venus could have had a shallow liquid water ocean and habitable surface temperatures for up to 2 billion years of its early history. And water means life. So maybe Venus had aliens, but it's most likely in the form of bacteria. So how did Venus lose its oceans, but Earth still has it? Venus is closer to the Sun than Earth and receives far more sunlight. As a result, the planet's early ocean evaporated, water vapor molecules were broken apart by ultraviolet radiation, and the hydrogen escaped into space. With no water left on the surface, carbon dioxide built up in the atmosphere, leading to a so-called runaway greenhouse effect that created present conditions. Now we all know that Venus is literally hell, but from many centuries ago until 50 years ago, people thought that Venus actually had life. Like Mars, Venus had played an important role into our stories, becoming a destination for many science fiction authors. Old science fiction tales depicted Venus as having oceans or vast steamy marshes, but it was always habitable, something that even scientists studying the planet couldn't definitely rule out at the time. Scientists such as, which I'll definitely pronounce this name wrongly, Svent Arrhenius, pushed a theory that Venus was an ideal candidate for harboring life, noting that a warm, wet environment might be similar to time periods in Earth's past. These tales of Venus went on for decades, with tales such as Planet of Peril and Pirates of Venus. However, Harry Wexler, the head of the US Weather Bureau, began a study of Venus's atmosphere and helped push research that established that Venus's atmosphere was not breathable. That was quite disappointing for people. On August 27, 1962, Mariner 2 was launched and became the first mission to Venus that succeeded when it flew past Venus in December of that year, coming within 35,406 kilometers of the planet. It found out that Venus, as it turned out, was a hellish world. The probe discovered that Venus was home to very high temperatures, high surface pressures, an atmosphere made out of carbon dioxide, and with no magnetic field. Any thought of any easy human habitation or any life there went right out the window, and that killed whatever hope that we could have colonized Venus. Or did it? Although Venus can't be colonized on the surface for very obvious reasons, we could still potentially live on Venus. Here's how. NASA researchers have come up with a plan to send piloted helium-fueled airships that could cruise through the atmosphere of Venus. The idea is called HAVOC, short for High Altitude Venus Operational Concept, and could eventually lead to the permanent settlement of Venus, its developers say. The airship would harbor 50 kilometers up in Venus's thick carbon dioxide dominated air. However, up there, the atmospheric pressure is roughly what we are used to, and the temperature there is around 75 degrees Celsius. So eventually Venus could be colonized by floating airship cities in the sky. I wanted to end on this video by actually saying 2 more facts, however those 2 facts alone are actually very short. So I decided to combine those 2 facts into one, because I'm very lazy. If it ain't obvious yet, Venus is very strange. I mean, ranging from its thick carbon dioxide atmosphere to the crushing pressures to the fact that it can melt metal and the high temperatures, already pretty strange, but there's a lot more strange things about Venus. Although it seems impossible, a day on Venus is actually longer than its year. That's because a day on Venus is 243 Earth days, but a year on Venus is 225 Earth days. Also, Venus orbits the Sun backwards, and as you can see from here, it really orbits backwards from everyone else. A reason for this could be because Venus suffered from a massive impact in the past, an impact big enough to affect its orbit. Another strange thing about Venus is that Mercury and Venus are the only two planets with no moon.